I've somehow managed to get an overhead camera and the food, and you get to see me. And so that definitely deserves some hearts and some likes, if you ask me. So anyway, I'm really excited though, because today I'm going to share with you an incredibly yummy, easy soup to make for the fall season. And I call this it encompasses the 6 tastes that are found in Ayurveda, but it also has a wonderful base of Mung dal and Basmati rice, which are fantastic for bringing us closer to vitality and gut health, at least from an Ayurvedic standpoint. And so, yeah, here we go. Just turning the volume down. Okay, great. So I think we've got the sound. Okay, great. So hubby says sounds good. All right, so I'm going to show you. This soup is so easy, and you can probably have it done into your slow cooker in less than 10 minutes, which is more time than it took me to get all this set up. So welcome to the kitchen, folks. All right, so Mung dal is one of these things that has a lot of benefits from an Ayurvedic diet standpoint. So it's one of the legumes that in our household, we incorporate pretty routinely. And so I'm just going to show you. It's got a smaller, it's a smaller size. And you can usually find this at Indian grocery stores, but it's also available on Amazon. And I get mine from Banyan Botanicals. So we're going to start. I'm just actually, as you're going to see here, I'm going to be able to throw everything into the slow cooker. So sometimes people will toast their spices, but I'm showing you a recipe that really is so easy. And so anyway, so we're going to start. And I think you can see me here. So we've got 1 cup. Oh, this is so fun. You have to understand, it's taken me like 9 months to figure out how to do all this. So at any rate, we're going to just enjoy it now. So, okay, so then we have 1/4 cup of Basmati rice. And again, I'm making a coconut, spicy coconut yellow dal soup today. And so I add the rice because I think it gives a little bit of a creamy texture. If you're grain-free, you could certainly add little bits of cauliflower. If you're gluten-free or you didn't want a white grain, you could do quinoa, millet, amaranth, brown rice. Any of those would work. So, okay, we've got so far so good. So we have the rice and the basmati, and okay, great. And if you have any questions, just throw them in the chat box. It looks like I'm actually going to be able to see those too. So here we are. Okay, so now we're going to work on the vegetables that are going to go in this, and then I'll do the spices. So first things first is a leek, and let's see here. How do I, oh, not quite. You can't quite see me cutting it. I'll get there. Let's see if we can aim that out a little bit. Work in progress over here. Okay, all right, anyway. Okay, so we're gonna do, it's basically about 1 leek, and you can save these extra pieces of the leek to go into your soup stocks, which I'm gonna show you, which I have made. And so this is something that is not going to be pureed, and so you'll want to kind of cut your vegetables into the bite size for the palates of people at home. So I'm just going to cut this up into little 1/4 rounds, and you could have a slightly bigger knife than I do at the moment, but hey, this is one of my favorite knives. It's lightweight. I have some arthritis in my wrist, so I like the lighter knives. And any rate, so we're going to just throw that in there. So that is our leek, and then we have some fresh zucchini. Oops, I think that's, yeah, it's fresh zucchini. And so if you're out shopping for this recipe, it's kind of a medium-sized one. It's approximately a cup, but if this is this medium-sized zucchini that you get, then feel free to just use the whole thing. It's just a little bit of extra vegetable. So I don't know if anybody's timing me, but my goal here is to be done everything into the slow cooker in less than 10 minutes. And the beautiful thing about this recipe is that it can stay in the slow cooker and other people can come and eat it throughout the day. So one of the things that I've been hearing is that it's so hard to get everyone's meals together right now. And so these types of recipes, and if you don't have a slow cooker, let me tell you, that is going to be a big solution to a lot of your issues. So at any rate, we're going to just cut this zucchini up. And I think you can almost see me. Woo, here we go. going to shift it a little bit. Anyway, I'm taking this course next week on how to use this streaming software. It's called Ecamm. So anyway, if anybody's interested in that, let me know, and I can give you the link because I think that's still open. Because sometimes people ask me, how did you do all that? So Ecamm is the software that I'm using. And just put Ecamm or something in the comments and I'll circle back. And my husband's always like, you need to look while you're slicing. So no talking and not looking at what you're doing on the cutting board. So anyway, now we've got the zucchini in, and we're going to do a 1/2 cup of thinly sliced carrots. So again, we're just going to take this carrot. And the nice thing about this is that you could think about some meal prep. So at the same time you're doing this cutting and prepping, you could actually be thinking about some other recipes. And just, you know, twice a week, do a big batch of veggies, and then you have a couple of different dishes. So if I was going to do this, I might also look at these veggies being used for sheet pan. And so I might roast them and have them for tacos or Buddha bowl. You could roast them and make other types of soups out of them, which is fantastic. So again, here we go. Thinly sliced, right? I like them a little bit on the smaller side. And the cooking time for carrots can be a little longer, but again, this is one of those really forgiving recipes. So, and now we're going to do a cup of fresh greens. And I was at the farmer's market today in Phoenix, and it's so exciting because we've got lots of greens finally coming back in season. This was the longest, hottest summer ever. I don't know about everybody else. So ready. Even this morning, it was a little bit on the cool side for about 1.5 minutes, and then it got hot again. So anyway, I'm excited for some cooler weather. And you can see here, what I usually do is just fold the kale over, make it into a little roll, and then just slice down. And as I like to say, you know, I'm a chef for many years, but again, if you're in the kitchen, it's got to work for you. It can't just be like, well, if I don't know how to cut it the shape right, just get in there and cut some vegetables. It's okay if everything isn't just perfect the first time. Ultimately, the idea here is finding your own flow and your own ease in the kitchen. So one of the things that I'll also do is I'll save these scraps and we'll make a broth, which I'm going to show you about that here in a second. So let's just get this out of the way. And we've got the celery and then some coconut, which I put in towards the end, some coconut milk. And you can also do fresh coconut, fresh dried coconut that you puree yourself if you didn't have any or you didn't want to use canned products that might have concern of BPA. So, all right, so we've got celery, kale, carrots, and leek. And so far we're getting pretty close to lots of different delicious flavors. And again, if you're just joining me, we're making a curry soup. This is one of my favorites for the fall months. And again, this is fresh ginger, which right now, this time of year, really helps us invigorate our digestion from an Ayurvedic standpoint. So I love this grater. You guys have probably seen me use this before. If you're just joining, I'm making a coconut curry yellow dal soup with lots of vegetables and spices that give it all these wonderful phytonutrient benefits for us in these fall months. Really help to support the digestive capacity in the fall. So I'm getting a heads up that the sound is still okay. And if there's any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. Oh yeah, cool. People interested in Ecamm, definitely. I will be happy to share more about that with you. Okay, so I've got my ginger grated, and let's do the veggie stock here. So some of you may know, this is probably one of my most indispensable kitchen gadgets, and this is a strainer, a double French sieve. So again, this is something that I love, and it just gives so much flexibility. I make all my nut milks with it, but take a look, here we go. So this is a broth that I made from kitchen scraps. And I also put some fresh seaweed, sea vegetables, and some dried shiitake in it to give it this wonderful flavor. And the guest that I have here with me today is nodding her head saying, yeah, that looks good. And so this ginger grater, it's kind of easy to, I'll just dunk it in. I mean, I don't know that that's a technical, technical skill, but hey, I got all the ginger off. And I don't like getting like big pieces of ginger when I'm eating soup, but I really love lots of ginger. So that's how I get around it. All right, and I'm going to put the coconut milk in towards the end because it keeps it from curdling, but I just wanted you to see what that is. And now we're going to do the spices, and we're done. Whoa, hey, there goes the phone. It really did want to take off there. That would be just like me. Okay, so now let's look at the spices. So we've got cumin, coriander, fennel, and I'm just going to put them out here. Cumin, coriander, fennel, and turmeric. Oh, cool, you guys can see them. That's so fun. Okay, so what I am also needing, here we go. So what I wanted to point out is this is something I do for a lot of Ayurvedic cooking. There's a use routinely of cumin, coriander, and fennel. So I'll go ahead and just have cumin, coriander, and fennel ground up already. But you can also grind them fresh that day. So again, the recipe calls for a teaspoon of each, and I'll be posting the recipe on my blog and in my Facebook group. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, just put group and I'll be sure to add you. We're doing lots of activities in the coming months with all the holidays coming, so I'm really excited about that. So that was the ground cumin, coriander, and fennel, which is these guys right here. And then we're going to add a generous teaspoon of turmeric. Woo, look at that, that's so fun. Those old iPhones come in handy for something, right? Okay, and then I think that's everything. So, oh, and some saffron, which I've got. So I don't know where I am timing-wise. Did I make it under 10 minutes? Can anyone tell me? But at any rate, I wanted to just point out that this recipe has so much flexibility in terms of getting it done and also just adjusting it for whatever's happening in your household food-wise. So let's give this a little stir. And then I'll throw this on the slow cooker. And so again, it's not too exciting here right at the moment. It's 4 cups of stock. And the coconut milk goes in a little bit towards the end. So again, that's exciting. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go put this on the slow cooker, and then I'm going to come back and hang out for a few minutes, and we'll be done. So super easy today. So the slow cooker is put onto, just going to be off screen here for a second. So the slow cooker, I put into the high function for between 30 and 60 minutes. And that's a really fun way to kind of cook this, let it sit, wait for your friends and family or whoever's coming by. You always have a warm pot of soup for them in the fall season. That goes such a long way. And so, okay, so let's recap here what we did. So I'm Dr. Siri Chun Khalsa. If you're just joining, I have a website, Dr. Siri Chun, and a Facebook group. If you're interested, I'm sharing tips and pointers about cooking and eating healthy in this fall season. And we've just made one of my favorite soups. It's a kind of a curry, coconut curry yellow dal, or spicy coconut yellow dal. And so the yellow dal that we used is a Mung dal, which is used very frequently in Ayurvedic cooking. And again, you can get this at Banyan Botanicals or the local Indian stores, or even online at Amazon. And the local Indian stores here in Phoenix actually have an organic version, which I do think is important. And then we had a grain with this, and I'm just trying to let my phone fly off the counter here. So let me do that. Oh, this is so fun. So Nika is joining us, who's one of my very early and most beloved teachers. She inspired me so much. So again, there's so many beautiful traditions within Ayurveda that come from a lineage of teachers. And these recipes are passed on and cultivated through really all of time. Many of these recipes and combinations of flavors and spices and particulars are all from writings and teachings that sometimes can be thousands of years old. And so my primary teacher has been Dr. Ladd, but Nika had a beautiful center in South India, Rasa Ayurveda, if I remember correctly. Jump in there, Nika, if you still are with us and you happen to have a link for what you're up to now. I'd love to see what you're doing. So again, here we have some wonderful leftover. Here, we can put that on camera here. So this is really fantastic for broths. So you can throw this in the freezer, or you can put this in the fridge and make a broth once a week. So typically after the farmer's market, I've got a bunch of fresh stuff. I'll do a little bit of meal prep, throw this into a container and do the broth on the next day, just to not overwhelm myself in the kitchen. And then the broth will keep through the week in the fridge. And when I make the broth, I add fresh spices like cumin, coriander, fennel, and a little bit of salt if I might like. And of course, you don't have to add salt. And then I add some sea vegetables like kombu, or other things that, depends what I have in stock. Dulse sometimes I think went into this one, and some dried shiitake. And so this is sort of my version of vegan bone broth, if you will. So again, if you're just joining us, we made today, and we're about to close up. I'm just going to see if there's any questions here. Really appreciate everybody joining in today, and also super excited about how all the setup's working. I've got a little progress to make, but hey, this is all available for anyone who wants to learn how to do this. And so if you're interested in this, I'm using a software company called Ecamm, and the DSLR for streaming. And so it's really easy and kind of fun to do. And I'm just kind of winging it, but I guess I'm having fun, so that counts for a lot. So,
where did you get your grater?
Oh, where did I get my grater? So this grater you can find on Amazon. You can also find I got it at a little Japanese grocery here in town. So little probably well-known fact about me now is that I love going into food supply sources from top to bottom. So I love going to fancy gourmet stores. I also love going to small shops in big cities that are kind of wall-to-wall filled with gadgets and accoutrements, all these things. So I've probably been to every kitchen gadget store from here to there. And but this is a Japanese style ginger grater. And so not so much, at least in my experience, found in the Indian markets, more in the Japanese markets. But if you go to the Japanese markets, maybe I ought to do a whole little show on kind of what you could bring home and what you could make with it. But a couple of things you might want to look for there are things like black sesame seed paste, miso. You can get pickled burdock. You can find organic nori really inexpensively, and truly your heart's desire of ramen. So maybe I'll make ramen next week. How does that sound, guys? Ramen happens to be one of our absolute favorites. Let's take a look here if there's any. Okay, so onion, carrot, celery, peelings. Yes. Absolutely. I think as long as you've washed the vegetables off, I think the peelings are fine. And particularly, well, let me rephrase that. If you're getting organic, locally grown, or organic vegetables, then the peelings are fine from my point of view. Rinse them off before you cook with them. Just get the dirt and bugs off. But sometimes when things are commercially grown, the pesticides, if they're not organic, might be more concentrated on the skin and on the outside. And some are water soluble, some are fat soluble, so best not to take a chance with the outer portions of pieces for broth. And so that's, oh yes, ramen. Somebody's excited about ramen. I did want to point out also, so if you're just joining in, we made a coconut yellow dal kind of curry, if you will, today soup. And this is something that can keep really well in the fridge. It keeps at least 24 to 48 hours. I myself, again, not so little known fact about me, do not love leftovers. And so I try to make portions that are going to be oriented to the time frame when I'm going to be eating them. So that's kind of important for me. And I think I did mention this. We put a little saffron in. Of course, you don't have to, but saffron brings the astringent taste, which is magnificent balancing. So in Ayurveda, we like to have 6 tastes in the food: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. And the astringent taste is due to tannins, which are a type of polyphenol. And so we're beginning to understand perhaps that the phytonutrients are some of the drivers of what I like to call food energetics, meaning these sort of secondary, tertiary actions of food in our body that we don't really understand from a Western nutritional standpoint. All right, guys. Oh, yes. And at the end, just to point out, I'm going to let it cook, but in the last 10 minutes, I'm going to add this coconut milk, which I think will be fantastic. It gives it a wonderful flavor. If you don't want quite as rich a coconut milk, you're looking for less fat, you can just take fresh coconut, soak it for a couple hours, puree it, and use this wire mesh sieve or something similar, like you're making a nut milk, drain it out and use that as your flavoring. I find that when you use the packaged type of coconut milk, it's a little bit creamier and doesn't curdle quite as much. So if you're making it more from scratch, you can literally just use it to cool the soup off at the very end. It doesn't actually need to cook to be delicious and part of the flavor. So, okay, guys, well, just taking a look here. So here's my summary. We're going to finish up with this thought. Husband always says, like, okay, what's your closing thought? Anywho, okay, so my closing thought for today is, if you can get a workflow in your kitchen, and this is a really easy jump start for that, where you have maybe 2 dishes you make from some veggie prep, and then your tops and your scraps from that make your broth. And then you get into a cycle where you then have that broth for other dishes. So you start to notice how, okay, in the background I have some nuts soaking for some vegan cheese, and yeah, right, vegan cheese, super exciting. And I have some other things kind of happening, but if you can start to find your own rhythm, the kitchen can be a little less stressful. And so one of the things I'm going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks is finding that rhythm in the kitchen that gives you energy to go do all the other dope stuff you're doing. Because I know there's a lot of really cool people that I happen to know that are up to all kinds of really fun, innovative, pioneering things. And so my thought is, can I support you in the kitchen to get you super efficient in that? So join me on my Facebook group. Just put group in the comments if you're catching this later. The replays for these, primarily I probably put them on YouTube because they're so hard to find in the groups. People always email me, where do I find this? So I'm sending out a weekly email that has the links to the YouTube replays in case you know someone who might want it. So just hashtag email if you want to be signed up for that email list. It has the recipe printout on it as well, or links to it at least. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. And oh yes, a tour of the store. You know what? That's a fantastic idea, Kelly. I would love to do that. And I may just start doing that. Some tours of me shopping, and you can get inside my brain a little bit, which, you know, do at your own peril. So at any rate, all right, guys, well, thanks for joining in. And like I said, I'm going to try to keep these short and sweet, to at least keep them at about 30 minutes. And I'm trying to start on time at 12. But let me tell you, the little pieces and bits and pieces of the technical side of this sometimes get a little bit of the best of me. So if I'm not on right at noon on Saturday, I promise I'm coming, unless there's an announcement on my page that we won't have one that week. So join me every Saturday and tune in. And thanks so much, everybody, for joining me today. And that's it.